Welcome back to my channel. The judge's gavel hadn't even struck the bench when Robyn broke into tears. The room tensed. Kody stood silent, jaw locked, eyes darting. But the real shock wasn't from Christine, Janelle, or even Mary. It came from a sealed envelope marked in Garrison's handwriting. A letter that would soon tear apart every lie Kody had ever told about love, loyalty, and family. Before we continue, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more truth, and comment below, whose side are you on in this war for justice? The fluorescent lights flickered above. The air smelled of old paper, polished wood, and the faint trace of Robyn's floral perfume. Kody shifted in his seat, crossing and uncrossing his arms, trying to look calm. But Christine's eyes told a different story. She wasn't here for closure. She was here for war. Judge Halverson cleared his throat, glancing over 3 massive binders stacked in front of him. Case 2025, Kody Brown versus Kody Brown, joined by Robyn Brown. The words echoed through the courtroom. The hearing would decide allegations of financial misconduct, forged estate documents, and disputed custody arrangements. Kody smirked, that same smug grin he'd worn on camera for years. But it didn't work today. Not under oath. Not surrounded by the ghosts of his own decisions. Christine sat straight-backed beside her lawyer. Her navy blazer sharp, her engagement ring from David noticeably absent. Behind her, Janelle sat silent but fierce. Mary was a row behind, her gaze fixed on Kody, cold, unblinking. Christine's attorney rose. Your Honor, before we proceed, we'd like to submit into evidence a letter written by Garrison Brown, dated 3 months before his passing. The air thickened instantly. Gasps rippled through the room. The judge nodded for the bailiff to bring it forward. The envelope was simple, white, clean, but the handwriting, unmistakable. For the first time, Kody's fingers trembled. Christine leaned forward just slightly, not to intimidate, but because she already knew. She'd read it. She'd lived it. Let the record show, her attorney continued. This letter was discovered among Garrison's personal effects, entrusted to Janelle Brown, and shared with Christine as part of their joint legal action. Judge Halverson read in silence. 1 page 2-3, his brows tightened. Then, page 4. He set it down carefully. This court finds cause to proceed with a formal audit of the Brown family trust and the disputed Flagstaff properties. Robyn exhaled sharply as though she'd been holding her breath for hours. Christine didn't move. Her mind had already traveled back to 2021, to the moment she found the document Kody swore never existed. A backdated property transfer slip, signed by Kody and Robyn during the pandemic. It moved part of Coyote Pass into Robyn's name, using family funds that were meant to be shared equally. Janelle's money, Christine's, even Mary's. Kody had told cameras, "We're building homes for everyone." But in reality, he was building walls. This wasn't just about stolen land, it was about stolen years. About belief turned into betrayal. Finally, Kody spoke. His tone defensive. Your Honor, I never forged anything. Those were business decisions, joint decisions with my legal wife. The judge raised an eyebrow. Your legal wife, who appears to be the only one not financially harmed in this transaction? Christine's lawyer didn't flinch. Your Honor, we call our first witness, Janelle Brown. Janelle walked to the stand, clutching a folder of bank statements. She didn't look at Kody once. I checked our shared savings account in March 2023, she said steadily. Over $32,000 was missing. Withdrawn for a business I never approved, registered under Robyn's name. Gasps. Kody leaned forward, seething. You said you were fine with it. Janelle's reply was ice. I said I trusted you. The judge lifted a hand. Mr. Brown, no outbursts, Janelle continued, voice steady. He said it was temporary. That Robyn had debts from a previous failure and it was our duty to help her recover. But Christine didn't approve those withdrawals. Neither did Mary. Kody did it alone, and he made it look like a group expense. Christine's attorney watched the judge's face as Janelle added, and I believe it wasn't the first time. There were others, years of them. Even back in Utah. The silence was suffocating. Judge Halverson nodded gravely. This court will subpoena all joint financial records under the family trust since 2009. Robyn's hand shot up, but the judge waved her down. You'll have your turn. Christine exhaled. She wasn't celebrating. She knew this was just the beginning. Because the next witness wasn't Mary. It was someone no one expected. The judge looked up. Next witness. Christine's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we call Savannah Brown. A stunned murmur swept the courtroom. Even Janelle's lips parted in disbelief. Kody's face drained of color. Savannah walked to the stand, composed, determined, 20 years old but carrying decades of pain. "I didn't want to be here," she said softly. "But I saw things, heard things I thought were just bad parenting. Now I know it was manipulation." Robyn gripped Kody's wrist, whispering something. He froze. Savannah continued, "He'd visit less and less. First weekends, then holidays, then only when the cameras were rolling. Mom cried when we didn't have grocery money. Meanwhile, Robyn's kids were at Disneyland, flying first class." The gallery murmured again. The truth was no longer hidden. It was bleeding into the open. Christine's lawyer handed her the envelope. "Do you recognize this?" Savannah nodded, her voice breaking. "Yes, that's my brother Garrison's handwriting." "What was his state of mind?" "He was tired, angry, betrayed, but mostly hurt." She unfolded the letter and read, "If you're reading this, you need to know Dad never gave equally. Not his time, not his love, not his money. He weaponized faith and made us strangers in our own home. I begged him to be present. He chose a wife instead." The courtroom fell silent. Even the judge closed his eyes briefly before speaking softly. "Do you have anything else to add?" Savannah folded the letter. "Only this. Dad said he was protecting our eternal family. But he destroyed it, one lie at a time." And with that, she stepped down. Even Robyn was crying now. Kody stood suddenly. "I didn't abandon my children," he shouted. "They all agreed to this. Why am I the villain now?" His voice echoed off the walls. Christine's lawyer rose. "Your Honor, we request a brief recess." "Granted," the judge replied. "Court will resume in 20 minutes." As the courtroom emptied, Christine stayed seated, calm, collected, and silent. Because she knew this was only the beginning. Because she knew this was only the beginning. The sound of the gavel still echoed in the air as the judge rose from his seat. "Court is in recess," he said. Everyone stood. The bailiff escorted Judge Halverson out, and the heavy wooden doors swung closed behind him. The tension didn't leave with him, it only thickened. Robyn tried to reach for Kody, her trembling hand barely brushing his sleeve. But he shrugged her off and stormed down the hallway, fast, angry, and for the first time, completely lost. Outside, there were no cameras, no spotlights, no production crew to frame his rage into a sympathetic story. Only silence. He slammed his palm against the cold wall, his voice cracking. "They've turned everyone against me." A quiet voice came from the shadows. "No, Kody. You did that yourself." It was Mary. She stood a few feet away, arms folded, her face composed but her eyes blazing. "I covered for you for years," she said softly. "You promised me healing. You gave me exile." Kody turned, his voice strained. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Mary cut in, her voice rising with years of repressed fury. "You used religion to justify control. You used us to build your image, to feed your ego. And when we stopped obeying, you punished us for it." Kody stared at her, speechless, caught between denial and guilt. That was when Robyn appeared, dabbing her tears with a crumpled tissue. "Can we not do this here?" she pleaded. Mary turned slowly toward her, her tone sharp enough to draw blood. "You have no right to speak right now." Robyn froze, her face pale. The hallway fell silent except for the distant echo of heels and whispers. The courtroom might have had rules, but out here in the corridors of truth, the war was only beginning. In the women's restroom, Christine and Janelle spoke in hushed tones. The sound of a dripping faucet filled the pauses between their words. "You didn't know Savannah was going to testify?" Christine asked quietly. Janelle shook her head. "She asked me not to stop her. Said it was time." Christine's eyes welled. She was brave. She's her mother's daughter. There was a long silence, then Christine's voice hardened. "I want to burn it all down, Janelle. Not just the money, the myths. The lies." Janelle nodded. "That's exactly why we're here." Across the hall, Kody sat slumped on a wooden bench. No cameras. No audience. Just him and the sound of his own breathing. For the first time in years, he wasn't the patriarch. He wasn't the performer. Just a man sitting in the ruins of his own creation, haunted by the faint whisper of regret. The bailiff's voice broke the quiet. "All rise." Court reconvened. Judge Halverson returned to the bench. "Counsel, call your next witness." Christine's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we call Ms. Andrea Parker." The name hit the room like a gunshot. Robyn's head jerked up. Kody's face drained of color. Andrea walked in, a tall woman in her 40s, calm, professional. She wasn't family. She was a former TLC accountant. And that meant one thing. The truth was about to get corporate. She raised her hand, took the oath, and sat. I handled financial oversight for the Sister Wives production from 2017 to 2022, she stated. Christine's lawyer stepped closer. Were there any irregularities in compensation during that time? Andrea nodded. Yes. While contracts listed equal base pay for each wife, additional bonuses were funneled through Kody's private LLC. And were all the wives informed of these bonuses? Andrea looked directly at the judge. No, Your Honor. Christine and Janelle were omitted from at least 4 quarterly disbursements. Robyn, however, was included in every single one. Christine's jaw tightened. Janelle whispered under her breath, "He lied to our faces." Andrea continued. In 2019, a $100,000 advance was paid to Brown Media Coverage, labeled as a family special project. The funds were withdrawn within 72 hours and used to purchase property in Robyn Brown's name. The room gasped. The judge's eyebrows arched. Christine's lawyer turned to him. Your Honor, this establishes a clear pattern of premeditated financial deception, years of hidden transactions disguised as family business. Judge Halverson nodded slowly. This court will issue subpoenas to TLC's parent company and order a third-party forensic audit of Brown Media Co. Silence that followed was heavy, decades of family loyalty collapsing under the weight of paper and ink. Christine leaned toward her microphone. Your Honor, may I speak? The judge nodded. Christine stood. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was strong. I used to believe we were building something sacred, that our sacrifices mattered. But now I see we were being used, played. I left the marriage, but I didn't leave the truth. She turned to Kody, her voice cracked just once. You broke us, not because you stopped loving us, but because you never knew how to start. Tears shimmered in her eyes. Janelle reached over, taking her hand. Even Mary looked down, fighting her own emotion. The judge exhaled. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Court will reconvene tomorrow. Further evidence and rebuttal will be heard. Kody rose from his seat. He didn't speak. Robyn stood beside him, gripping his arm. Say something, she whispered desperately. But there was nothing left to say. This wasn't a TV confession. There were no retakes. No editors to save him in post-production. This was real. And the truth didn't cut to commercial. When the court resumed the next morning, everything felt different. Savannah's testimony still hung in the air like fog, thick, visible, impossible to ignore. Kody avoided everyone's eyes, even the judge's. Robyn sat rigid beside him, clutching the strap of her designer bag as if it were her last lifeline. Christine, meanwhile, didn't flinch. She waited, focused, steady. This next step had to be surgical, precise, brutal, but clean. Because when the truth is on trial, there are no second chances. Judge Halverson adjusted his glasses. Counsel, do you have additional evidence before we resume cross-examination? Christine's lawyer nodded. Yes, Your Honor. We request the court unseal the property files transferred from Coconino County pertaining to Flagstaff Parcel 8942J, previously sealed under a private family trust. But now, we have legal cause to review the ownership transitions made during the filming of Season 17. Robyn froze, her body stiffening like stone, because she knew what was coming next. And this time, not even Kody could protect her. Not even Kody could protect her. The courtroom had turned into a theater of reckoning. Kody's brow furrowed, his tone sharp. That's not relevant to this case, he muttered. But before his defense could build, the judge's voice cut through the tension like a blade. It is now, he said firmly. Given the established connection between Brown Media Company distributions and personal assets, this court will allow it. Proceed. The attorney didn't hesitate. A sealed file, thick, heavy, and humming with consequence, was handed to the bailiff. The man carried it to the bench, where the judge sliced through the envelope with slow precision. Papers rustled. The judge flipped through each page carefully, his eyes narrowing with every line. There appears to be a signature discrepancy on these documents, he said slowly. And a notary log that doesn't align with the listed timestamp. The silence that followed was absolute. Robyn's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Christine leaned forward, calm but burning with purpose. Your Honor, she began, voice steady, that is exactly our concern. These documents were signed during a time when I was told there were no funds for property. Yet somehow, this very land was purchased outright in Robyn Brown's name. And worse, my name appears on the witness line, forged. The courtroom froze. When a name appears where it never should have been, Christine continued, it's not just fraud, it's a deliberate rewriting of history. The judge looked back down at the pages, his expression unreadable. Ms. Robyn Brown, he asked, did you sign this document on March 6, 2021? Robyn hesitated. I don't remember the exact date. Were you in Arizona that day? Yes. And were Christine Brown and Kody Brown present when the notary came? Another pause. I think Kody was. Christine, I'm not sure. Christine's voice sliced clean through the air. I was in Utah, she said firmly. I had a speaking engagement. There are photos, receipts. I wasn't even in the same state. The judge made a note. Then this court will investigate forgery allegations. If the notary's signature and witness line were falsified, that constitutes real estate fraud under state law. Kody stood abruptly. We're getting off track. This is about feelings, not fraud. But this time the courtroom didn't move with him. He stood alone, visibly shaking. Mr. Brown, the judge sighed, sit down. This court is not concerned with your emotional interpretation of legal violations. Robyn dabbed her eyes, but the tears didn't work this time. The sympathy that had once followed her everywhere had vanished under the weight of facts and signatures. Christine's attorney pressed on. Let's talk about intent, she said, walking to the evidence board. Ms. Brown, were you aware that funds used for this property were withdrawn from the account listed as the Covenant family pool? Robyn's lips trembled. I thought it was approved. Approved by whom? Kody, she whispered. The room shifted. Something invisible but powerful cracked in the air. The mask was slipping, and Robyn's old lines no longer worked. From the back, Mary watched, jaw tight, eyes fierce. A decade of silence pressed against her ribs like a rising tide. The judge turned another page. This document was co-signed by an LLC under your maiden name, Mrs. Sullivan. Why was that account hidden from the family's financial records? Robyn stammered. It was just in case of emergency. Christine leaned forward and whispered, just loud enough to be heard. Emergency for who? Robyn finally turned toward her. Her face hardened, not scared, not sad, but defensive. I didn't ask to be the favorite, she snapped. The words detonated like dynamite. The air seemed to leave the room. I didn't ask for him to move in and never leave, she continued, her voice rising. You all backed off. I just stayed. I didn't plan this. Janelle's voice broke the silence. You benefited from it, over and over again. Christine stared her down. And you never once stood up for us. Not once. The judge slammed his gavel. Enough, order. But the truth had already escaped. The courtroom was boiling now, every suppressed word rising to the surface. The judge turned toward Mary. Ms. Brown, would you be willing to testify now? Mary stood slowly, her voice calm and unwavering. Yes, Your Honor. She walked to the stand, took the oath, and sat down. In your time as Kody Brown's first wife, Christine's lawyer asked, did you ever have control over shared financial accounts? Mary let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sigh. No, not once. Kody held all decision-making power. When we separated emotionally, that didn't change. I was given an allowance. The courtroom gasped. Were you aware of Robyn's private LLC? No, Mary said flatly. In fact, Kody told me to stay out of family finances altogether. Said it wasn't my business once I moved into the B&B. The judge raised a brow. And did you move into that property by choice? Mary's eyes locked onto Kody. No. I was told it was my only option. He said I'd embarrassed the family enough. Every word was a dagger. Mary wasn't reclaiming her place. She was exposing what it cost to be erased. Christine's attorney stepped forward, holding a final document. Your Honor, the last exhibit for today. The bailiff carried it over. A new document, Emergency Power Transfer of Real Property Control 2021. It bore the signatures of Kody and Robyn. This, the attorney said, gave Robyn full veto power over all future land sales. And guess whose names were removed? Mary's and Janelle's, she answered herself. The judge frowned. This confirms unilateral control of assets by two parties, contradicting every previous testimony of equal ownership. Kody finally spoke, voice desperate. They left. I had to protect what was left. Mary's reply cut through him like steel. You protected Robyn, not the family. Christine rose to her feet. Your Honor, one more exhibit. A screenshot was handed to the judge. The room leaned in. It was an internal TLC memo. Primary talent designation, K. Brown, R.B. Brown, S21 plus priority hold. It gave Kody and Robyn full control over future show content, earnings, and branding. The others were erased. The silence was suffocating. Christine whispered, "This was never about healing. It was about control." The judge leaned back. "This court will recess until tomorrow. A full investigation into financial fraud, contract manipulation, and forged documents will proceed." He struck his gavel once more. The courtroom doors opened. Robyn reached for Kody's hand, but he didn't take it. When the doors closed, the consequences began. Silence filled the halls, the kind that screamed louder than words. Christine walked out, head high. David was waiting by the elevator. He took her hand steady and sure. Janelle followed, her purse clutched like armor. Mary lingered behind alone for a moment. Then, just barely, she smiled. For once, the truth had the last word. But tomorrow? Tomorrow the children return. And one of them carries evidence that will shatter everything that came before. The morning light cut across the courthouse floor like a spotlight. The hallway buzzed with whispers and nerves. Christine sat quietly beside Mykelti, her daughter's hands folded tightly in her lap. "She's ready," Christine said softly. Mykelti nodded. "So am I." Inside the courtroom waited. Something had changed permanently. Inside the courtroom waited. Something had changed permanently. The air inside the courtroom feels heavier today, like truth itself has a scent, metallic and raw. Papers litter the defense table. Robyn's makeup bag sits half unzipped, foundation spilling onto a stack of wrinkled notes. Kody's papers are scattered too, his pen tapping restlessly against the table. For the first time, the exhaustion on his face isn't for the cameras. It's real, the kind that comes when the walls you built to protect your lies finally start closing in. Judge Halverson enters, robes brushing the floor like thunder before a storm. "We resume proceedings on case 2025, UFAM 4190, he announces. "Counsel, you may proceed." Christine's attorney rises slowly, confidence wrapped in calm. "Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Mykelti Pad to the stand." The doors creak open. Mykelti walks in, spine straight, jaw locked, eyes forward. She doesn't look at Robyn. She doesn't even glance at Kody. She raises her right hand, swears the oath, and sits down. A daughter who has carried too much truth for too long. "Mykelti," the lawyer begins gently, "were you present at your brother Garrison's home 3 weeks before his passing?" "Yes," she says softly. "I stayed with him a few nights. He was going through a lot. We all were." The attorney nods. "Did he share anything with you during that time?" Mykelti pauses, then reaches into her coat pocket. Her fingers tremble as she unfolds a small piece of paper, creased, worn, sacred. "I wasn't going to bring this," she says. "But after yesterday, I couldn't keep it hidden anymore." She hands it to the bailiff. The judge reads it silently, his eyes darkening. "This," he says, "appears to be an unsigned draft of a will." The courtroom stills. When the dead leave behind unsigned truths, the living must decide whether silence is loyalty or complicity. The judge continues. "This draft excludes both Mr. Kody Brown and Ms. Robyn Brown from inheritance." Robyn gasps. Kody's head jerks up. Christine doesn't even blink. She's known since the day Mykelti called her in tears. "My brother told me," Mykelti says, her voice trembling but steady. "He was tired of pretending. He said the show was fake. That Dad only called when there were cameras. And that Robyn," she pauses, fighting tears, "told him not to bring his bad energy around her kids." Robyn shoots to her feet. "That's not true." "Sit down or be removed," the judge snaps, slamming his gavel. Robyn collapses back into her chair, shaking. Kody's jaw tightens until the sound of his teeth grinding echoes faintly through the silence. The lawyer presses forward. "Did Garrison ever mention money issues?" "Yes," Mykelti nods. "He said he asked for help, but was told to figure it out like a man. Then he found out Robyn's son got a full car lease and paid from the family account. That broke him." The room goes dead quiet. Favoritism doesn't just break hearts. It fractures families. The judge signals to the clerk. "Add this to evidence." Christine's lawyer doesn't pause. "Your Honor, we now call Logan Brown." When the door opens again, the energy shifts. Logan walks in like a man carrying the entire family's sins on his shoulders. His stance is military, disciplined, contained. He takes the oath, sits down, and stares directly at Kody. "You know why I'm here," he says firmly. I was the oldest. The fixer. The one who kept it together when you wouldn't. He drops a thick folder onto the table. Spreadsheets, statements, withdrawals. Garrison wasn't paranoid, Logan continues. He was right. I pulled statements from an old business account Dad opened in 2014. Guess who had access? He slides the paper forward. Only 2 names are visible, Kody Brown and Robyn Brown. Christine covers her mouth. Janelle leans forward, stunned. The judge scans the sheets. This is deeply concerning. Kody finally breaks his silence. Those were legal business expenses. The network threatened cancellation. Then why weren't we told? Janelle blurts out, tears of fury trembling in her voice. You made us sign waivers. Christine snaps, voice shaking. Robyn whispers, my kids were on that show too. Janelle's reply cuts through the air. You made thousands off their faces. The judge leans forward, his voice now steel. We are nearing grounds for criminal referral. This is no longer a family dispute. This is fiduciary misconduct. Robyn begins to cry, her mascara streaking down her face. We didn't mean— Don't! Kody hisses, gripping her arm. But it's too late. From the gallery, a soft, trembling voice rises. Mom, stop. Everyone turns. It's Aurora, Robyn's daughter. She's been there all along, silent in the back row, until now. Mom told me never to mention the SunWest account, Aurora says, stepping forward. Robyn's face goes pale. Aurora? The judge straightens. What did you just say? Aurora swallows hard. She said there was a backup account, in case the other wives got nosy. I didn't understand. She told me not to tell anyone. The room erupts, gasps, murmurs, shock. Robyn covers her face. Kody looks away, guilt etched deep into every wrinkle. Christine's attorney stands tall. Your Honor, we request immediate discovery of any and all accounts under the alias SunWest Holdings, registered under Robyn Sullivan Brown and Kody Wynn Brown. The gavel slams. Motion granted, the judge declares. And Ms. Brown, you may want to consider separate counsel. Because if this holds, your position just changed dramatically. The silence that follows is suffocating. Some secrets don't just ruin reputations, they become evidence. Christine sits still, but her pulse is racing. They use the kids, she whispers to Janelle, for tax shelters, for sympathy, for airtime. Janelle nods slowly. And now, they're losing everything. The judge calls a recess. The crowd spills into the hallway. Mary approaches Christine. No anger this time, just exhaustion and solidarity. You were right, she says softly. Christine sighs. I wish I wasn't. They stand there together, 2 women who once believed in a family that never existed. Inside, Robyn sobs quietly into her sleeve. Kody stares out the window, watching his empire crumble in real time. But neither of them notices the clerk walking toward the judge, holding a sealed envelope labeled, Anonymous Submission from a Brown Family Member. Urgent evidence enclosed. The judge opens it. Inside is a single USB drive marked with one word, testimony. He plugs it into the courtroom monitor. The screen flickers. And then, the room goes silent. Because the face on the screen is Gabe, recorded 6 months ago. His voice steady, calm, devastating. If you're watching this, it means the truth finally came to light. And if you're wondering why I didn't speak sooner, it's because I didn't trust the system to believe me. The camera cuts to black, and so does the illusion that the Brown family ever stood on love. Today's courtroom wasn't just a place of law. It was a place where years of silence finally broke. Everyone rises as the bailiff escorts Judge Halverson out of the room. The wooden door shuts behind him with a deep echo that feels almost like a heartbeat. Robyn reaches for Kody's arm, desperate, trembling, but he brushes past her without a word. His jaw is tight, his movements sharp, like a man running from ghosts. Cameras outside can't see him, but we can. The hallway stretches cold and empty as Kody slams his hand against the wall, his voice shaking. They've turned everyone against me, he spits. A low voice cuts through the silence. No, Kody. You did that yourself. It's Mary, standing a few feet away, arms crossed, expression carved from stone. I covered for you for years, she says, her tone low and controlled. You promised me healing, but all you gave me was exile. Kody turns toward her, eyes flickering with disbelief. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Mary interrupts, her voice trembling with restrained fury. You used faith to justify control. You used us to build your kingdom, and when we stopped bowing, you made us the villains. Kody falters. For a moment, the man who once commanded 4 households suddenly looks small. Robyn appears at the end of the hall, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "Can we not do this here?" she whispers. Mary turns, slow and deliberate. "You have no right to speak right now." Robyn recoils, her face pale. But the storm isn't over. The courtroom may have rules, but the recess is chaos. Truths that were buried for decades rise to the surface like bones after rain. Inside the women's restroom, Christine and Janelle speak in hushed tones. "You didn't know Savannah was testifying?" Christine asks softly. Janelle shakes her head. "She told me not to stop her. Said it was time." Christine's eyes glisten. She was brave. She's her mother's daughter. They pause, and the silence between them heavy, sacred. Then Christine whispers, "I want to burn it all down, Janelle. Not just the money, but the myths, the lies." Janelle nods, voice trembling but resolute. "That's exactly why we're here." Across the hall, Kody sits alone on a wooden bench. No cameras, no audience, no applause. Just the sound of his own breathing and the weight of regret he's never allowed himself to feel. For the first time, there's no script, and no one left to play his part. When court reconvenes, Judge Halverson returns. "Call your next witness," he commands. Christine's attorney rises. "Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Miss Andrea Parker." The name freezes the air. Robyn's head jerks up. Kody's face drains of color. Andrea walks in, calm, professional, and dangerously composed. She's no family member. She's something far more threatening. "I was the financial accountant for the Sister Wives production," she begins. From 2017 to 2022. Christine's lawyer steps closer. "Were there any irregularities in compensation?" Andrea nods. "Yes, several. While all wives were promised equal base pay, additional bonuses were routed through an LLC under Kody's sole control. Some of those payments were never disclosed." The courtroom stiffens. "Which wives were excluded?" "Christine and Janelle," Andrea replies firmly. "But Robyn was included in all disbursements." Christine's jaw tightens. Janelle whispers, "He lied to our faces." Andrea continues, "In 2019, a $100,000 special project payment was issued to Brown Media Co. It was cashed within 72 hours and used to purchase property listed under Robyn Brown's name." Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Robyn's face crumples. Kody's lips tremble, but no words come. Christine's lawyer steps forward. "Your Honor, this demonstrates deliberate financial deception conducted under the false pretense of family trust." The judge nods, slow and grim. "Subpoenas will be issued to TLC's parent company. A full audit will be conducted on Brown Media Co." A low murmur spreads through the room. This is no longer reality TV. This is reality itself. Christine leans into her mic. "Your Honor, may I say something?" The judge nods. She stands, her voice shaking with raw emotion. "I used to believe our sacrifices meant something, that this was sacred. But I see now, we were never a family in your eyes, Kody. We were your brand, your currency. I left the marriage, but I didn't leave the truth." She turns toward him, tears shimmering. "You broke us, not because you stopped loving us, but because you never knew how to love at all." The courtroom falls silent. Even Mary lowers her eyes. Janelle reaches for Christine's hand, a quiet gesture of solidarity. Judge Halverson clears his throat. "Thank you, Miss Brown. Court will adjourn until tomorrow. Additional evidence will be reviewed." Kody stands but doesn't move. Robyn clings to his arm. "Say something," she whispers. He doesn't, because for once there's nothing left to say. He's not on a set anymore. He's not the star of a family show. He's just a man in a courtroom, and the truth doesn't fade to black for commercial breaks. As everyone files out, Savannah's words linger in the air, haunting, powerful, unforgettable. The silence that follows is louder than applause, heavier than guilt. The Brown Empire has cracked. And tomorrow the truth will finish what it started. And tomorrow the truth will finish what it started.